Hey guys, I'm back. We're here with the second tutorial for Owlgaming Help, and I'm gonna kind of go over what all the resources are this time and explain each one of them, as best to my knowledge. I don't know everything about them, but I'm gonna kind of explain everything I do know, and hopefully it'll help you guys. But first, I want to go over a couple questions you guys were having from the last video. So what we'll do is I'll answer a couple of those questions, and then we'll get right into the resources. Alright, so let's get started. So to start, I noticed a lot of you guys were having some issues with right after the server started and you connected and maybe you got your database set up properly. There was a couple other things that you couldn't get past, such as the applications or activation or whatever it might be. So that's actually pretty simple. I'll show you guys right now. So let's start with activation. So you have your accounts table right here, and that's going to be in core. And I've just made a temporary account here just to kind of show you guys. You go all the way over here and you see activated, and activated should be 1 if you want to bypass any of the email verification stuff. Now if you want to make that so everybody that joins the server is automatically activated, you go up to structure, you find activated right here, and you just make your default to 1. So you can change that, make default, it's normally 0, make it 1. Now nobody will have to activate their account. Activating accounts is kind of a pain to set up because you have to have an email server, and usually that's hooked into a website. So you kind of have to have a lot of stuff going if you want to do that. The next thing I'm going to show you guys is for your app state, so your applications. Maybe you joined the server and you figured out the email activation, but now there's just a blank screen and you don't know what to do. Well, that just means that you have an application stage that you have to pass, but you have no questions added. So what you can do for just yourself or whoever else, any other staff members, you find, where is it? Here we go. You find app state. App state should be 3 if you want to, if you want the application stage to be passed. Now, if you want to change that for everybody, then you can go to structure again and make mine as default 0 because I want people to have an application, but you can change it to 3 and everybody will have passed. I believe either 1 or 2 is it means that you've passed only half of the application, so the multiple questions, and then you still have to do the written answers. It's either 1 or 2, you'll have to check that. And the last thing you guys might want to know is a serial whitelist. So generally, when you make an account and you add yourself as staff, you'll be able to log in. But every time you log in after that, it'll say could not connect from this PC or something like that. And that's because you have to whitelist your serial as staff member. So any staff that joins the server has to have a whitelisted serial. The way you could find that, you go to MTA and you just scroll down until you find serial whitelist. It's right here. And you'll see that there's one in here. So what you would do is say I wanted to insert one. Insert. You put ID. So what ID is that's the next serial in line. So this would be number 2. And then user ID is your account ID. So it could be any account ID. You just have to find it for the person. So you would do ID, in this case 2. User ID, will say it's account number 23. And then their serial, you don't have to worry about anything else. Right here you make it 1 and go. Now you can go back and now their serial is whitelisted. It's important to have status as 1, and it's important you have the right ID and user ID. Well, and serial, but yeah. Other than that, I hope those explanations kind of helped everybody out after you make your account, because I know sometimes it can be complicated. The only other thing that people have been asking is help with connecting their database, because sometimes the database will fail or it'll give you an error. And I can't really help with that. It's hard to help people with that because everybody has something set up differently. You might have a different program than I have, or whatever the case might be. But I can give you one word of advice for the databases. If you're using a hosted service, like you're paying a company and you bought a server for your MTA server, and they provide a database for you, generally they're only going to allow you to upload one database, which means Owlgaming has two databases. It has Core and MTA. It'll only let you upload one, so you have to make a ticket to your provider and ask them if you can upload a second database, or send it to them and ask them if they can upload it. Otherwise, you'll have to self-host your database. And without further ado, we'll get on to the resources here. And I'm just going to kind of go over these really quick, just for people that may have forgot. You can skip this part if you want. So in here, you have the three databases. You're never going to need to use data. You could even delete that one if you wanted. Really, the only two you'll use is Core and MTA. So never worry about data. Then you have your different or Linux libraries. You don't need to worry about that. Then your different modules. You shouldn't have to worry about that. You may have to add one module, but otherwise you should be fine. Just make sure when you're specifying your modules, you notice that there's .so and .dll. .dll is only for Windows, and .so is if you're using Linux. You can specify the modules in the MTA server config file here. You have resource archive. This is kind of just like a cache of, I want to say the client side, maybe server side. Let me see. There's both. It's a cache of the files. You should never have to delete it or mess with it. You'll never edit anything in here. I would just leave it alone. It's been a long time since I've played, so my knowledge is a little rusty, but just leave that alone. The ACL, that's not the place that you put staff members. So in every other type of server, you would do that, right? Well, here you're not. You have scripter, user.scripter. So if you're scripter in the server and you want scripter commands like debug script and whatnot, you would type /devmode, devmode. Also, I suggest it might be a good idea if I mention any commands during this video to write them down, because they will help you. So /devmode is where you're going to find debug script and show collisions and everything. Now this can be changed, of course, because the system isn't the best that they use. Basically how it works is any developer can use /devmode, but only one developer at a time can use it. So if you want to add multiple people, you can. You'll just have to edit some permissions and whatnot down here. So there's that. Everybody knows about the MTA config file. If you don't, I suggest you study that before you get into learning this code, because this is very simple and the code is very complex. Settings we've discussed already. That's where you put your database connection and some other settings. You can go to the other tutorial if you want to break down to that. And vehicle colors isn't important. Just leave that there. Alright, resources. So we'll start with dev. This container folder is, it only has three things. It's got IPB, runcode, and SFX browser. IPB is your internet performance browser. If you turn the resource on in the server and you type /IPB, it'll show you all different stats about your data, your network, and how much memory things are taking up, server client side, everything. It's really cool. Then you have runcode. Runcode is just basically allowing you to run lines of code while in game. It can be handy when you're testing stuff. Then SFX browser is really handy. So if you turn that on, you type /SFX browser, Oh, I'm sorry. For run code, it's /run and then whatever code you want to put. So usually you would put that in the console. You just type run and then whatever code. SFX browser, if you start that resource and type I think SFX browser or /SFX, one of the two, it'll show a panel. And the panel will have IDs and the option to play any single player sound effect. So all of the like character dialogue lines are in there, different sounds are in there. Anything that has to do with the single player game, you can find the IDs and listen to the sounds in there. It's really cool. So this way, if you want to add a sound into your coding or something, you can find the ID and put it into the function. You have interior. This is everything related to your interior system. Interior keypad is for a donator perk. You can have a keypad on any of your interiors. This just handles that. Interior load. Anything with _load is what's going to load that feature. So interior load loads all of the interiors. If you restart this resource, it will reload all of the interiors. There's a little like UI at the bottom right of the screen when you do reload this, and it'll tell you how many are reloaded out of how many you actually have. It's pretty handy. And then these three just handle the rest of the interior system. Interior manager is for /ints, INTS, and that handles interiors in-game. So that's your interior manager. Official interiors, this is a lot of your like the interiors, so you know that you can make an interior with /add_int. Well, these are the interiors that you can use, basically. Then you have everything related to the maps. If you don't already know, you can type /maps, and that's your map manager. Both players and staff can use this, and as a player, you can upload any map you want. You just upload the .map contents, and a staff member can accept the map, and then you have that map in the server. Now, as a staff member, you have the admin tabs as well, and you can review submissions and everything like that. As well as you have map load here. Map load, if you restart that, it'll reload all the maps in the server. Then you have everything related to the vehicles. Some stuff is pretty self-explanatory, like car radio, the vehicle shop system. This will include the NPCs for the car shop if you need to find those. Fuel system, vehicle load, like I said before, it'll reload all the vehicles in the server. Vehicle manager, that's for /VEHS, VEHS. And I also think it's for the vehicle library. Yep. So VEHLIB, VELIB is the vehicle library. And there you can add new vehicles and all that good stuff. It's for license plate system. Some vehicles have interiors. There's very few. Let's see. Yeah, so right now, I'm not sure which one this one is, but the AT400, which is the big passenger jet, it has an interior, and that's this. I know there are some other ones. I'm not sure where to find them exactly, but I know like the Shamal, the private jet, has an interior, and a couple other things. Right. Then you have account. Account is a really important resource. Basically, every single thing that happens from the second you connect to the server, all the way to the point where you spawn as a character, that's the account resource. So this has to do with the login panel, the applications, the register things, character selection, character creation, everything. All the settings that are back end and everything, that's all in account. There's a lot to it. It'll take you some time to learn it all, but it's very handy. Also, I know that there's another place for F10 settings, but this is also here as well. That's when you're in game and you press F10, there's a whole settings panel. Then you have achievement. This is really just for when an admin gives you game coins, so the premium currency. When they gift them to you, it'll show like a little Xbox style achievement image, and it'll just say you've been awarded X amount of coins. Activities. This is just some miscellaneous stuff that's fun to do, like the Ferris wheel at the pier is here. That's actually not an Owlgaming resource. You can find that on the MTA community website. Then you have the snowball feature. I don't remember ever coding with it, but I remember playing with it in Owl. Basically, when it's enabled, you can just right-click on the ground, pick up a snowball, and you can throw them at people. I believe the snow resource has to be enabled as well. Surfboard. I've never used this before. Not even sure if it's complete, but you can give it a go if you'd like. You have admin system. This is self-explanatory. This has almost everything related to admins and administration work and everything. Different tools that they can use, like monitor and vehicle stuff and whatnot. There's a lot of commands in here. It's a good place for you guys to look around and kind of just find some commands. Just keep in mind, not every admin command will be in here. They're kind of scattered all over the place. And you have advertisements. This is for /ads, ADS. It allows players to make advertisements in-game. There's a panel for it, and if they want to push their advertisement, it can show a little green text in the chat box for everybody to see. It's really cool. It's really handy. Everybody used to use it in Owlgaming. Very popular. It's kind of a way for players to be able to say, hey, I have this for sale, somebody call me, you know? Then the animation system. This has everything to do with your animations. You can do /anim select or /anims, and that will pull up 2 different types of animation panels. One of those might just be specific to my server, but I'm sure that one of them works. You can also add custom animations in here. Once you figure that out, you have the custom Owl IFP. I'm not going to get into how to do that, but if you have an IFP loader, you can check all those out. Then you have announcement. This is just for /ANN. It's basically a bar that goes across the top of your screen, and it will show an announcement to every player. You can type /ANN and then your announcement, and then that's about it. It just shows to everybody. This also has the message of the day stuff, so MOTD. Basically, if you type /MOTD, you can set a message of the day for players to see as soon as they join the server. You could set it so they only see it once, or every single time, or certain ranks, or whatever the case is. It's pretty handy. Anti-cheat, this is just some miscellaneous stuff related to alting. So like, what alting is, if you don't already know, is say for example, if you have a gun on a character and you drop it and you log on to another character and try to pick up that gun, that's called alting. Generally that's against the rules in a roleplay server, but this prevents that. It also does some other stuff. You can look into it. Anti-command spam does exactly what you think it does. I'm not going to really get into that. Apps. This is for your application stage. Kind of just look into this. This is for, it's for F7, the application manager and all that stuff. Artifacts. So artifacts is basically every attachable model that will attach to a player. So it's not all of the models in the game. It's just for models that attach to a player. For example, you have the biker helmet, all the helmets here, the duffel bags, gas mask, body armor, fishing rod, some other stuff. Now you can add new ones, but keep in mind you're going to have to adjust the positioning for every skin for new models, because skins are different sizes, so you know. Then you have the bank script, the bank resource. This handles everything related to banks. There is an NPC line in here somewhere, so you can put that down at your main bank. Let me see if I can find it actually. What you can do actually is you can, oh, it's right here actually in BankPad. Look at that. So a quick tip, if you guys ever need to find an NPC in the code, and you can see him in game, but you need to find him in the code, you just find his name, so you can search, for example, Maxime. Fun fact, Maxime was the original owner of Owlgaming. He eventually gave it to Chaos, but you can search the name of the NPC and you'll find it. Now granted, there's a lot of Maxime stuff because he was also a developer, but... well, you get the point. With other NPCs you can do it and less stuff will likely show up. But yeah, so there's a bank NPC here. There's some other stuff related to the ATMs and so on. Pretty handy. Then you have the band system. This just has to do with bands, and I believe /find alts is in here as well. Or you could do /find alts 2. That's kind of like /whois, but whois doesn't work in the Owl server. I mean the Owl code. Bone attach. You should already know what this is, but if you don't, this is just the framework that allows things to be attached to a player. So the where is it? The artifact system uses bone attach, and a couple other things use it as well. This just sticks things to bones. Business system. This doesn't work. This was never finished. You could delete it if you want. Cache. I never really looked into this. Keep in mind, I did say I don't know everything about this code. I'm just giving the information that I know. If anybody knows about the resources that I say I don't know, you can feel free to leave your help in the comments. But as for cache, as much as I can tell you is it caches these specific things. I'm not entirely sure. Camera system. I believe this is for the PD cameras. Again, I never really looked much into this, but I want to say it's for either the speed cameras or like body cams. Cards. This is a cool resource. If you get a deck of cards in game with your /items, you can click on it and it'll actually let you play cards. There's a UI for it, and you can play it with other players if they're near you. The best game to play, what I feel like it was built for, is 21 or Blackjack. That one works pretty well, but other than that, yeah, you could try whatever you want. Cargo. Somebody mentioned to me not long ago that Cargo has another feature as well with the forklift and all that stuff, but the only thing I know it from is the ship. So if you go to Ocean Docks, you'll notice there's a big cargo ship in there. Well, that ship actually moves. It was a fun little thing one of the developers made, and all the commands to make it move and stuff are in here. Then you have the chance system. So if you've ever roleplayed before, you probably know what /luck and /chance is. If you don't, I'll kind of give an example for you. So in a roleplay server, /luck and /chance is used for basically to have a chance at something. It's a percentage of if something failed or succeeded. So for example, say you walk up to somebody and you want to fight them. Well, you know, in a roleplay server, due to power gaming, you can't just run up and punch them and kill them and then run away. That's against the rules. So you would go up to somebody and say you just wanted to sucker punch them and run away. You run up, you do /luck, and then it would give you basically a percentage between 1 and 100. Say you got 57, right? So it would say 57%, and then you do /chance 57, and then it would tell you if your attempt succeeded or failed. So 57, it's pretty close to the middle, so it could say either. You're more likely to get a succeed if the number's higher, and vice versa for lower. So say you got luck 57 and it succeeded, then boom, you could punch that guy and run away. But if it failed, you'd have to roleplay like your punch failing, like you missed him or something like that, you tripped, I don't know. It's a really good system. It's really easy to use. If I'm explaining it poorly, try it anyway. It's really easy. Then you have the chat system. This handles pretty much everything related to chats in the chat box. You have restricted frequencies, which is pretty cool, /RF in server. You can set factions to have their own radio frequency, and nobody else can use them or see them. Then you have, obviously, Y is your team chat. That's for your faction radio. You have B, which is your OOC chat. F, which is your normal chat. /C, which is whisper, like /A, / bunch of other stuff for admin chats. /S for shouting. /F for faction chat. There's a whole bunch of them. You can just look in here and find them. Then you have the clothing system. This is if you go to a clothing store, you can right-click on the NPC and upload your own photoshopped skins and wear them. So basically, if you download the original copy of whatever skin you wear, like the default San Andreas copy, you can Photoshop it, put some new shoes on it, put some sunglasses, whatever you want, and you can upload that file into the NPC, and your new changed NPC will be playable. I'm sorry, your new changed skin will be playable. So the NPC is here, you can do the location wherever you want, and the rest of it's here. This does use a texture system that we'll get to a little bit later. Club Tech, I'm not sure if this is still used, but what it is basically texturing for dance floors. So if you have a Club Tech system would be used for the dance floor to have it changing and whatnot. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's still used because I never owned a club in Owl. I've been to a club maybe twice in Owl, and following Owl, I never really set any up. So there's that. But keep in mind, with the texture system that I'll get to later, you might just be able to use that. So I'll reference this again later. Cockpit, it just shows a UI at the bottom of your screen when you get into an aircraft. This isn't an Owlgaming resource, kind of like Ferris wheel. You can find this on Community. Color Blender, this is just basically your color picker. Anytime you see a color picker in the server, that's this. Computer system, it's pretty cool. If you right click on a computer in game, you can surf the web, you can use like a real browser, you can make an in-game email other people. Once it's set up, it's really nice. Custom blips, this is really only used for, I think it's only used for police dispatch, so for the dispatch system. I don't think it's used for anything else, but you can always do, a good way to check stuff like that is if you go here and you search exports dot and, for example, use custom blip. So exports, well, as you guys have probably noticed in the Owl code, you can't just delete something because everything is tied to another resource. If you delete something, then something else breaks, and that's because of this. There's exports in most of these resources, and that allows you to use functions from a different resource in the resource that you need it without having to recode the entire thing. So for example, Owlgaming uses the custom blips resource for dispatch and actually looks like that's about it. And then there's one airport thing as well. Yeah, so airports and dispatch. Next you have the dancer system. As far as I'm aware, this is just, it adds like a stripper wherever you do the command. Maybe good for clubs or just fooling around. Data, this is another one that I'm not entirely sure. What I can infer based on the files is it outputs data based on faction drops, and I'm not even sure, honestly. If you know, feel free to put it in the comments. But a good lesson is if you don't know what it does, don't mess with it until you do know, because I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, hey, how do you do this? Or this is broken. And I always tell them, this code works out of the box. You download it, everything works. If something's broken, you probably messed with something that you shouldn't have. So I wouldn't suggest messing with this stuff. Date time. Between this and the real-time system, wherever that might be, right here, I don't know which one does what, but I do know that it keeps the server on a 24-hour clock, so it's a real 24 hours, not a San Andreas 24 hours, and it can also tell your real time. For the time in a server, so say you want a different time zone or something, the server reads whatever time the host time is. So, for example, if I host it on a VPS and that VPS is located in the Netherlands, it's going to have Netherlands time. You're going to have to change the time of your VPS to change the in-game time. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but it's worth it. Next is the death system. This handles the effects that happen when you scriptally die, and it also has all the graveyard stuff. So at the graveyard, there's 2 floating icons. You can walk into each one. One of them is like it's a list of all the players that are dead and buried, and then the other list is a list of all the players that are missing. So the difference between the two is when your character's CK'd and that's it, you're done. Your body can either stay in the map forever, or an admin can /bury and then your character name. If the admin doesn't do /bury, you're basically just going to be a missing person, and you're going to be in the missing person list, and somebody can eventually find your body and do the roleplay. If, say, you died and you went to the hospital, the admins can /bury you, then that means you got put into the graves, and they can see you in the remembrance list. Another cool feature is once somebody gets CK'd and buried, you can go up to the graves in the Los Santos Cemetery, and you can, I think it's left alt or something, you can see like some like rest in peace info about it. Actually, following into that, there's description. So description system basically allows you to see all that info on the grave, and it also lets you see when you press left alt, you can see vehicle information and interior information when you're next to them. So if you're in an interior, if you're in a vehicle, press left alt, you can see the VIN and the name and everything. If you're next to an interior marker, you can press left alt and it'll show you that stuff. Donators, this is just everything related to the donator system. If you press F10 and click premium features, that's your donator page. Players can purchase stuff through there. As a developer, you'll have to set up a way for people to donate. So I think this hooks into the website, but you can probably add like a PayPal or something. And this also has all the donation perks as well. So if you want to change around some stuff, you'll probably want to change the typing icons because they're all shaped like the Owl logo. But yeah, donation stuff. Drive-by, this is actually a default MTA resource. Just allows players to do drive-bys. By default, in MTA, you can't do a drive-by, so they had to script it, and they made it a default resource, so every server has this. Duty, this is for faction duty. I won't get into it too much, but maybe I'll make another video at some point about how the features work in game, but if you make a duty spot, this is what handles you going on duty. Dynamic lighting, this is just all improvements to lighting and whatnot. I'm sure you've heard of these resources, but if not, they're pretty cool. You don't really have to mess with them. They're kind of already configured, and you can enable them or disable them in the F10 settings. Elections, this allows you to have like a roleplay election system and like a voting system basically for government officials or whatever. I've only been around Owl once when they were using this, maybe twice, but I've never personally used it, so That would be, and I've never actually set it up as well, so it might be something to look into. Then you have elevator system. Elevator system, so in Owlgaming, elevators mean two things. I don't know why, but basically an elevator is those white arrows that you see spinning around, whether it's for an interior or just a teleportation mark or whatever. But in short, it's a teleport marker. So you can do /add E to make one, and then add E in another location, and then you could basically teleport from one place to the next. It's mostly used in like interiors, when you have like a room that you can't physically enter because the door is closed or something. You can just put an elevator marker and teleport to wherever. You can do /del-E, D-E-L-E, and that will delete whatever ID marker you choose. You can do /nearby-E, and then, yeah, I think that's it. And those commands you can use for so many other things too. So /del, /add, and /nearby, whatever. You can use them for ATMs, NPCs, fuel pads, so on and so forth. The other thing that this does is you have the lifts. So the lifts are, it's like a chain of elevators. So it's meant to emulate a real life elevator. There's different floors that you can use and whatnot. The ES system, this is the emergency services system. This is pretty much just all of the hospital related stuff and so on, injuries, like stuff that happens when you die. I mean, there's also the death system, but they work together basically. Then you have event system. Event system is kind of like activities, but I don't know why they're different. I could get into it, but it'd just waste some time. You have the basketball stuff. Basketball is actually a pretty cool feature. You can go to any basketball court that has the script on it and pick up a basketball, and you can play a game of basketball with the hoops and everything. BMX Pier. This is, how do I explain this? It's not by default active, but if you go to the Verona Beach Pier, the one with nothing on it, there's a map on there if you enable this. And it's like a little BMX like trick area. And there used to be a scoreboard that was attached to a big billboard outside of it. And that scoreboard had a texture placed on it for a website. So Owlgaming would keep track of your progress through when you did the challenge, and it would put your progress up on the scoreboard. Now, there'll never be a way for you to have that same scoreboard because they've shut down that website. I don't even know what website they used, but I'm sure you can still use the challenge itself. Then you have the Easter system. I don't know everything about it, but I do remember there's a really creepy looking Easter bunny in the middle of Verona Mall, and you were able to find Easter eggs all over the map, all over the city. And you'd just find these Easter eggs, and then you'd bring them back to the Easter bunny, and you'd get a reward. Golf. It's a cool little golf system Anuma's made a long time ago, and that's all the way at the top of Las Venturas, where the golf course is. I think you have to have a golf club in your hand, and I can't remember what else triggers it. It's somewhere in the code, but I know you definitely need a golf club. It's a little simple, but it's pretty cool. Then you have paintball. Yes, the paintball does work. The only problem to it is you need to make your own maps for it, and then you need to configure the code to those maps. Other than that, it works totally fine. I've never used ice skates. I don't think that works. But yeah. Then you have the faction system. This handles everything related to the factions. F3 is your faction panel. You can make factions and slash... It's either /create faction or /make faction or something like that. Or no, you know what it is? It's /factions. You go to /factions and then there's a button to add a new one. Because /factions is an admin command and it shows all the factions in the game. So you can add them, edit them, whatever. And if you press F3, that's what will, you can manage your own factions. I think the command to get into a faction is /set faction, and then you'll find the syntax once you type that, or set faction leader. So if you're gonna say put yourself as the head of the police department, right? When you want to add yourself in, just type /set faction leader. Fake video. I know this isn't used anymore. I never used it when I played. I've never actually even used it. I want to say this is the old texture system. Yeah. This was like an old system that they used for textures that they never removed, I think. I can't be 100% with that. But you don't need to use it. You don't need to modify it. Yeah. You have fonts. I'm not sure why there's only one font in here. And I'm not entirely sure what this font is. But you know what? I can find out right now. Because we have the exports function. Fonts. Huh. Well, where am I? Doesn't seem like it's used anywhere. It might be used in a different way, so I wouldn't delete it, but you can look into that more if you want. Forums, this isn't used. Obviously, unless you have your own forums set up, and at that point, I think you would make your own resource for it. But this was for the Owlgaming forums. FreeCam, it's pretty self-explanatory. Everybody knows what FreeCam is. This handles that. Then you have FreeCam TV. This was essentially when, like, for the news faction, when they would start a broadcast, you would use your personal TV, because you could buy a personal TV at the store, and you would click on it when a broadcast is happening, and it would like teleport your character into the newsroom, but where the camera is. So it would look like you're watching the broadcast, but in realistic terms, it would just put your character where the camera is. So this is what handles that. The gatekeeper system, I don't know why they named it that. It's more NPC stuff. In fact, it's all NPC related stuff. So you'll find the City Hall NPC stuff in here. I think that's also in one other resource. The right-click panel, when you right-click an NPC, that's in here. Locksmith stuff, and some general pet stuff. Gate manager, it's pretty self-explanatory. /gates is where you can add and edit and whatever, any gates that are in the server. Gates are pretty handy. Next you have global. Global has a lot of stuff in it. It's just a lot of global files. I'm not really going to get into it, but this will be handy the more you develop, so only modify this if you need to. But there's a lot of handy stuff in here. Glue system, everybody should know what that is. If you don't, you can just type /glue and it will glue you to a vehicle. If you're already in a vehicle and you type /glue, you can glue yourself to another vehicle. Just be careful, because there is a bug. If you /glue to one vehicle and then they /glue to you, you guys will just start floating into nowhere. There is a fix for that, but I don't feel like getting into that. GPS. This is just basically everything related to your map and whatnot. You can also find all of your, where is it? Right here, your street names. So this is actually a good one. You can edit any single street name in the server. And as you know, if you press F11 and you kind of highlight around the map, you can see different streets highlight in yellow. And it'll tell you the name of the street. And also at the top left, there's a drop-down menu of all the street names as well. So this is where you can edit those. I don't suggest you edit the nodes, because nodes are a pain in the ass to do, but these are the nodes for the roads. Road nodes. You have grid. I'll tell you right now, this was a system that was never finished. I won't get into it much. If you guys would like to know more about it, myself and Exciter are the only two people that have a more completed version of this. It's a really cool system, I should say, but in the default Owlgaming code, it does nothing. It's unfinished. You can delete it. GUI editor. If you type /GUIED, that will open up a really handy GUI maker. And I think they actually recently made that a default resource. If not, it's definitely a community resource. It's not an Owlgaming thing. Hardware survey, honestly, I don't know. I couldn't help you. Health add-on. I never looked into this either. This might just be... I remember a long time ago they came out with the diagnose system. This might just be what that is. You're gonna just have to go discover that on your own. It might be /diagnose, I'm not sure. Heligrab, this is also a community resource. Basically, if a helicopter is hovering like close to the ground and you double jump on the side of it, you can hold on to the sides of the helicopter and they can fly around and you'll be like grabbing the side of it. It's cool. Help, there's a /help, but nobody ever uses it, and it's kind of outdated because you have F1 now. In fact, /help might even be disabled, I'm not sure. But the most important thing in this resource is you have your blips. So if you ever want to change your blips, they're going to be right here. That's for DMB, for the bank, for anything. Or say you want to add more blips, you can add them all right there. There's also info points. Info points are pretty cool. They're like, remember in single player when you'd walk around and you'd find like a floating eye and it would show you some information? That's exactly what this is. HUD. As it says, this is everything related to the HUD. This has to do with the top right HUD for your icons, your name tags, some other stuff as well. You can find various images in here. If you ever want to change any of the icons, like for example the above the head ones or anything, they're all in here. You can change all these. I've made mine into a different shape, so maybe you want to do that. Next you have the ID system. Basically every player has an ID as soon as you connect to the server. If you press tab, which is the scoreboard, after you've already spawned in, you can see that you have an ID next to you. Yours will probably be ID 1 if you're the only player in the server. If 2 players join, your ID 2, and so on and so forth. It will fill in IDs, so say there's 30 people on the server, but you know, number 5 and number 7 and 22 left, and then a 50 or a 31st person joined, their ID will be number 5. It's just filling them in. It's got a little smarts to it, so it's a cool thing to keep around. Insurance. I only messed with this once when I played Owl, but it's basically just an insurance system for vehicles. There was a faction that handled insurance at one point. I never really learned how the code worked or anything like that, but that's what that is. It's not really mandatory to have while playing. It's like an extra add-on. Integration. This, I don't know everything about it, but I do know for sure that you can find all the staff related stuff in here. Well, staff rank related stuff. So if you ever want to edit. Oh, by the way, I'm not sure if I should be saying this on the tutorial, but you see stuff like this. Owlgaming was never officially able to copyright their code. It wasn't really a possibility. They did that to deter people from stealing, so they made this whole fake copyright thing. So a lot of the times, I want to say some stuff, maybe like the website was copyrighted, but like none of the code was actually copyrighted. You can delete these. You'll never need these. That's just a preference because I hate having to see that in every code that I open. But yeah. Otherwise, you can have you can see all the admin levels here. I wouldn't change stuff if you don't know what it is, but say you want to add like another staff rank or something, you can do it in here. That's also the biggest way to find like if a staff member has a permission for something, you could do exports.integration and then is player whatever, right? So you have these functions right here. These functions are called in so many different places in in the code. So for example, if you copied is player head admin, you have all these commands now. Not a lot for head admin, but more for the others. And this will show you all different types of things. For example, you know, this is only allowing head admin and scripter to do this command. Anyway. Item move. So when you place an item and you right click it and you click move, this is basically what handles that. You could just adjust the positions of any items that are around. If you want to do that outside, you need an admin to do it, but you can freely do it as a player in your own interior, or if you have the key. Item system. This is for /items and so many other things. This is a pretty big system, and there's a lot of items. So the best thing I could say is type /items and spawn some stuff and see what they do. Every item, I think most items in that list have a script function to them, so they do at least something, whether it's just a little like message or it does something else. There's a lot. And then you have generic items as well. Generic items, if you I forgot the command for generic items, but you can basically it'll spawn you like whatever object ID and then whatever name, and yeah, so on. You have all the images for the items here. There's a process for adding new items. Maybe at some point I will make a tutorial for that. Item texture. This is what I believe replaced fake video. So this basically, if you buy a wallpaper at a gas station or spawn a wallpaper to yourself, you can put an Imgur link into it. If Imgur doesn't work anymore, you can use postimages.org. That's what I use, but you'll have to change the code to allow that. And you put that texture in, and then you apply it to whatever object you want, and now that object is textured with whatever image you put on it. You can also texture vehicles a different way, and skins I told you about in the clothing system. If you want to texture outside objects, you need to be an admin for that as well. Item world. I believe this just handles all of the items that are in the main world, so dimension 0. There's a little bit of stuff that goes on with them to make sure people don't lag and whatnot. And then obviously permissions for locking certain items and whatnot. I believe that's what this is. Job system. This is just all the city hall jobs basically. Some of them aren't used, such as sweeper and locksmith. But bus, taxi, and mechanic. Bus and taxi you can get in the city hall. Mechanic, you can have an admin give it to you with /set job. And then fishing, you can just go to the pier once that's set up and you can just start fishing. I think you have to have a fishing license and a fishing rod, and obviously a boat. I don't know much about the others. I've never done photographer. I believe that's only for the news faction. I could be wrong. And locksmith, I've never looked into it. You have job system trucker. This is for the RS Hall job. The RS Hall job is basically a delivery driver thing, kind of like Amazon. So you go to the warehouse that's just outside the city limits, and you can get into a truck. There's different level trucks. You have to put all the trucks and set them all up and everything, and then you get into a truck and you get your supplies and you go deliver. The cool thing about this is if you have a lot of players on and those players own businesses, well, in a business you have to stock your NPCs. So say you have like a general shop NPC, you have to put stock into that NPC so it can sell that stock. Now, when you order supplies or stock from that NPC, it'll send a message to RS Hall, all the delivery drivers, and say, hey, your next delivery will be to this place, and it's a real player's thing. So kind of, players helping each other. That is one downside to nowadays MTA, because everybody knows that MTA is kind of failing. There's not a whole lot of players in certain servers anymore, but if you don't have a lot of players, you might want to change this, because it's going to require another player to help you. Language system. Language system's actually really cool. So if you press F6, you can see the language panel, and you can learn up to 3 languages. So when you're creating your character, you have an option for language. And everybody thinks that's the language that the code is going to be in. Well, no, the code's only in English. That's going to be the language that your character understands. So basically what happens is when you press T and you type something, it'll say like the message, your name, and then probably English or whatever language you're speaking in next to it as well. If there's players on the server and you speak to somebody that only knows English, but you only know Spanish, for example, it will say Spanish, your name, and then the message, or your name, Spanish, whatever. And it'll just show as a jumbled message to the person that only speaks English. Now say that person wants to learn Spanish too. Then you get the Spanish language. You can do that, either an admin can give it to you with /setlang, L-A-N-G, or you can spawn them a language book as it's an item, or you can get like a library NPC or a book NPC, whatever you call it, and you can learn from the book. Now the book, once you click it, you start learning the language. Now to start actually learning the language, you have to be around people that are speaking that language. So say I'm around somebody that speaks Spanish, and they're talking and they're typing, and my language skill will go up eventually. And I also have to be typing in it, even though I don't understand how to speak in it. It'll be jumbled for a while, but eventually certain words, the ones that you practice more, will get unjumbled, and you'll see like half the message unjumbled and more of the message unjumbled, and eventually it'll be clear and you'll understand the language completely. I thought that was a really cool system. It's very unique. License system. This handles everything related to your driver's licenses, fishing license, gun license, everything. The DMV driver's license path, so when you have to take your driving test, the paths for that are here, as well as the bike license. Logs. This isn't for your local logs. I can't remember if this is, I think this is for website logs, so it's not necessary to you, but also don't take my word on that. I would just leave it and not touch it, because there is another this one we'll get to. You have lottery system. Lottery system is I would delete it personally. Make sure you find, let's see if there's any no. So lottery system is a good idea, but Owlgaming never used it when they had players, and now it wouldn't work with no players. So basically you can go to the store and buy a lottery ticket, and maybe once a day or once an hour or something like that, the amount of money that was used to purchase between everybody will go to whoever the winner is. That's what I remember. You're gonna get a message in chat saying lottery number was chosen, blah blah blah, but nobody buys tickets, so you can just delete that, if that makes sense. LSFD, this is your fire department stuff. Like at the station, you can have the alarm, as well as your beepers. I'm not entirely sure what fire.dff is. It might be for the fire truck. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if the mission works. I was never fire department or police in any roleplay server, so I don't know. MDC, this is basically your police computer. So it's actually a whole system. So if you type /MDC when you're an on-duty cop, I want to say, you can look through it, or I think you have to be in a vehicle or something like that. You have to be somewhere where there's a computer. And there's a whole login system for it. You can create the login as an admin, and I want to say that's in permissions here. And from there you can see players' information, like you can see their addresses, you can see what cars they own, you can see the licenses they have, if they have any felonies, or like you can put APBs out for people. There's a whole thing. It's really cool. Once you have a login for that, you can look at it all. There's also data that that won't automatically populate in the MDC, so you'll have to put it in yourself. That's just normal. Then you have the model system. This is just a bunch of miscellaneous models. I don't know why they didn't just put all the model scripts into one thing, like artifacts and model system, and then the other one. But here's this. And you have mods. This is the other one. This one, if you're going to be looking into adding custom models into your script, this is where you're going to want to do it. You have all the main mods here: skins, vehicles, weapons, and then you can add them. If you look into the code a little bit, you'll be able to figure it out. So you add everything into the meta, you add it into the mod system, and then you throw your files into here. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. You should look into it. There's a lot of vehicles that have been subtly modified, so you can like walk inside of them or something, like the ice cream truck or the fire truck or stuff like that. MySQL, you really never need to touch this. This is just everything that connects to MySQL, and it's just all your database related stuff. There's going to be one spot in here. Where is it? I think it's just in here. Yeah. So many times I've seen people edit this instead of editing this settings.xml in your deathmatch folder. Do not edit this. This is just reading your settings.xml. The whole point of the settings.xml is so people can't, like, especially developers and stuff, can't get into this file, find your database information, and connect to the database. By having it like this, developers can't access the settings.xml if you configure it properly in GitHub. And if anybody happens to get the code, if it leaks or something, they don't have your database information because it has to read outside of the resources folder. So don't edit this. Next we have NPC. This has to do with stuff related to the custom shop and just general NPC stuff. I won't get into it too much, but if you're editing NPCs or you're coding with NPCs, you're probably going to end up here at some point. Object browser. It's been a minute. I'm not sure I remember. Let me see. It's very clearly a list of every single object. I'm not sure where it's used, but there's that. So next you have object interaction. This is basically just if you right click an object and there's a little interactive menu that comes up. I am going to look at this really fast though. Oh yeah, so this is actually a really handy thing too. So in here, you can put all of the, so when you spawn an NPC, they have default names, and it just randomly generates a name based on a male or a female. Well, if you want to add more names into it, you want to make a little more diverse selection, you can add them into here. It's object interaction, G objects. Not sure why it's here, but there it is. Yeah. Following that, we have the object system. I'm not entirely sure what the differences between objects and items are. It might be something completely unrelated to objects, just named that. I don't know exactly, but one thing that I am noticing here that's handy is the fall protection. So when you enter an interior and say the interior doesn't load fast enough and you start falling into the void, this should pick you back up and spawn you at the interior entrance. Then you have Owlgaming logs. Now this is all of your client logs. What you can do is you can go into your MTA folder, then mods deathmatch resources, not server mods deathmatch resources, just mods deathmatch resources. And then you find a resource called Owlgaming logs. That's all your client logs. It also has phone logs if you've selected that in the F10 settings. So If you're ever in roleplay and need some proof of something, that's the best place to go. Then you have the parachute system. This is another default MTA resource. This just allows the parachute to work. Payday. Basically, this is just every hour you get a payday, and it subtracts like taxes from your vehicles and your property and everything, and then gives you some money. I think it's either if you have a low amount of hours, or if you don't have, I think it's if you don't have a lot of money, it'll give you like a state benefits check of like $200 or something. Also, another fun fact is your payday is hooked into your hours, or rather your hours are hooked into your payday. So your character hours, every payday you get, your hour will go up by 1. There's a command called force payday /force payday, and that will do exactly what it says, is force a payday, but every time you do that, your hour will increase by 1. So it's a little trick. Then you have the pay and spray system. Everybody knows what pay and spray is. Basically, this one only repairs your car. It doesn't change the color. If you want to change the color of your car, you just have to go to a mechanic or something. But yeah, you just go into the pay and spray lot and wait for the noise, and then you're done. It doesn't work on temporary vehicles. To add one, I think it's /add pay and spray or del pay and spray in nearby pay and sprays. PD system, it's all your police stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff in here. Like I said before, I was never police on any roleplay servers or fire department, so I don't know much about it, but you can look into it and get what you need. Then you have ped system. It's yet another NPC system. I couldn't tell you the difference between all of them. I do know that there's several resources that handle NPCs, but this is just another one of them, especially with the right-click menu and everything else. This is for the phone. So when you have a phone in-game, you can either buy one at the store, or you can, I don't think you can spawn one in anymore, but either way, this is just the whole thing that handles the interaction with your phone. Pool. This isn't like a water pool that you can swim in. This is like, it pools data together. I don't remember exactly what data, but you can look into that if needed. You shouldn't have to edit it. You could just leave it alone. You should be fine. Prison system. This is kind of intricate and a little in-depth. Basically, this is where you would set up your prison. The only reason why I say it's a pain in the ass is because you have to set the gates, the gate positions. You also have to set where the actual cells are, like the locations. And if you have a lot of them, it can be tedious. I've only set up a prison in one server. Other than that, it's been somebody else, or we just didn't have a prison. We had like a little county jail or something. Ramp system. So any of you mechanics out there might know, or if you go like to a mechanic shop, you see there's a bunch of cars that are lifted up on these like liftable ramps, and then this way you can like look under the car and get under the car. That's what this is. We have a model for it, and when you spawn a I forgot what the command is. It's like add ramp or something like that, and it'll give you a remote as well, and that remote will allow you to put it up and down. It's also good for car storage, because you can fit a car underneath it when the ramp is up. Realism. This resource just handles a bunch of realistic features, such as like your seatbelt, or like, you know, your glow sticks, stuff like that. Just a whole bunch of random stuff. Traffic lights. So one of the fire trucks has a ladder that you can move around. Yeah, you really shouldn't have to edit much in here, but you'll know what you're doing if you are editing. Real-time system. I talked about this with the date time system. You can go back in the video if you want an explanation with that. Release notes, as far as I know, not important. I think this is website related stuff. Again, always read the code before you delete it. Make sure it's not anywhere else. You search for the export. And you have everything related to the report system, player reports, just general admin reports. That's in the F1 system. It used to be F2, but I think now it's in F1. And that's like your general support center. Resources. This is just miscellaneous stuff like fonts and MP3 files, stuff like that. I believe like a lot of people don't like the font that shows when you walk up to like a house or a business and you could see the font for the name of it and everything. I think that's in here. You could change that. Right click. Basically, when you right click another player, this is for player right click. There's some interactions and stuff. Roadblock system. This is for the traffic services faction or the towing faction, I think. It just allows you to put a roadblock wherever you want. It'll spawn. You could spawn one, despawn one. Obviously, only if you're in that faction. San. This is San Andreas News. I think this is just for the NPC. I don't even know what the NPC does. I've never been in that faction, but there's not much to it. SAPT system, that one I've always had some question with because I've never actually used it. I want to say it has to do with an old faction, but it stands for San Andreas Public Transport. So a lot of this stuff has to do with something related to a bus. Like if I were to open it here, see routes, destinations, control panel. I couldn't tell you exactly. It might be something cool if you could figure it out, but yeah, there's that. So next you have the save players system. This pretty much just saves everything related to all the characters into the database. It's pretty self-explanatory. Scoreboard, this is when you press tab. It's all your, data on your scoreboard. Self-CK system is pretty much just when you want to self-CK. It handles all that type of stuff. Serial whitelist, as mentioned before, all staff members have to be whitelisted if you're going to join the server. Players can also whitelist themselves, and there's a donator perk for if you want to add another serial or whitelisted serial into the server, so you can play on more than one computer or something. Granted, I've never had an issue. Like when I played Owl and I changed computers or something, I never got any issues with that. Really, the only issue I found is with staff accounts. SFIA, this is for the airport. I don't know why it's called San Fierro International Airport. That might just be because like a mission or some code or something around that airport. I do know that there's a big collision, like a coal shape around it. I don't think these missions work though, but it also has to do with like the pilot club and everything. Shaders, you don't really have to worry about these. Shader snow ground if you enable the Christmas stuff. That's about it. I can't remember which ones are by default enabled or not, but yeah. Sittable chairs. Basically, like most of the chairs, you can right click them and click sit, and it'll snap you onto the chair and make it look like you're sitting. Not all of them are on there. You can add more chairs if you want, but yeah, there's that. There's a snow resource similar to the snow ground shader. This will add snow falling from the sky. I think there's a command where you can edit some stuff, like some settings with your snow. I'm not entirely sure, but you could check that out. Social, this is for like your friend system and /look. So /look is a panel that you can use for yourself or for other players. And for yourself, you can edit like your physical features and some basics about yourself, or your character rather. And then other people can /look to you and see all that information. So if they want to like get a representation of what your character looks like. I think you can even add an image to like a face claim. And then you have friends system. When you press O, that's your friends list. Now granted, if you're just starting your server, you probably don't have other friends in the server. So you can type /add friend and then their ID or part of their name, and it'll add them. And then it'll show when they're offline or online. You can also edit your friend message on there. Put whatever you want, funny stuff, whatever. There used to be a way to change the image. Owlgaming for a while had it so on their website you could change the little square image for your profile icon or your friend's icon. Eventually they took that away. I don't remember why, but I'm sure you could make that happen. And you have spike system. That's just like police spikes. Never used them. Don't know how they work, but police spikes. Superman. This is another community resource, not an Owlgaming resource. If you're an admin and you're on duty, you could double jump and you have like a Superman fly ability. It's pretty handy when you want to get around places and you don't want to use free cam. Tag system. This is just related to graffiti and whatnot. I don't know the in-depth workings of it because I've never modified this. We have a different tag system, but yeah, this is just graffiti related stuff. Then you have the texture system. This handles all of your texture related stuff. I can't remember if it's just for one specific type of thing or if this is your core texture resource that handles like vehicle, object, NPC textures, and so on. I think that's what this is. Tinted windows. You can tint your car windows. I think there's like an add tint command or something, or you could do it through Roleplay. So the way it works is if you have tint on your vehicle, you can you won't be able to see player names in the vehicle, and depending on how intense the tint is, you'll have to be closer and closer to the car to be able to see the player names. Otherwise it'll say like unknown player or something like that. Your toll resource. This is just all the tolls on the bridges and stuff that you have to pay the NPCs to get by. You should be able to just delete this resource. I don't think it might be tied into the police system. Hang on. And maybe the... Yeah, so there's a couple things that it's tied into, but if you really don't want those tolls, it's really easy. It's just the MDC. And that's just toggling, because the police can disable or enable the tolls to kind of trap people in a city, you know. And you have the tow system. This is just everything related to towing faction or the impound lots. Police has an impound lot, and then the towing faction has an impound lot. You will have to make a map for those lots, like a garage or something. But other than that, that's all this. User control panel, UCP, unneeded. If you ever made your own UCP, you'd probably have your own resource anyway. Weapon and weapon cap. This handles everything related to the weapon system. You know, the maximum capacity a weapon can handle, or firing modes, reloading. Handles a couple other things as well. It also has your weapon sounds in there. So if you ever wanted to change certain weapon sounds. If you wanted to change models, that'll be in the mods resource. Weather system. I've had some issues with it in the past, but if you don't touch it, it should be fine. There shouldn't be anything that you have to edit. But it's a pretty cool little system. And last but not least, we have the Christmas system. So the Christmas system's pretty cool. It puts a big Christmas tree in the middle of Verona Mall, as well as a Santa. And for the Santa to work, you have to go into the vehicle library and make a certain model truck and trailer, like a big rig. It'll tell you somewhere in this resource what kind. I think it's a Freightliner. But anyway, once you make it and everything matches the code in here and everything, you can put it into... You can park it basically at the mall, and Santa will spawn in it. And it's there's a mod that goes with the truck as well. It's like a Coca-Cola Christmas truck. So Santa will sit in the truck every single hour he comes out, and you can right-click him and get little Coca-Cola bottles from him, and you find a lottery ticket in them. And you give the ticket back to Santa, and he'll give you a gift. There's a small percentage that the gift is like a car or something like that. It's a really, really small percent, but you can edit all that stuff in here. And that's about that. There's some stuff obviously that I didn't know. I don't know everything about this code, and over time I've modified so much stuff. So if you know something that I don't, or maybe I said something wrong, just feel free to put it in the comments. There's also a lot of stuff in here that I didn't go over just because time restraints, and really you just have to learn the code when it all comes down to it. I mean, these videos are made to help. I know there's no other Owlgaming tutorials out on YouTube anywhere, but you really just have to spend the time and learn the code. If you have any questions about any of the resources or want me to explain something better, you can always join our Discord. You can find that in the video link. And I think that's that. Enjoy, guys.